Buonasera. Numela meo este Harry Ford. Scuseno nebesk romaneste. So I'm going to have to do all of this in English. Sorry about that. So that was my very bad attempt at a little Romanian for you. So hello everybody, and thank you for coming today, as Tudor says. Today I'm going to be speaking to you about problem framing. Can you all see me over this screen? I'm not hiding behind my screen too much. I'm going to talk to you about problem framing and why a problem well framed is a problem half solved. Hopefully by the end of this talk today, you'll understand why framing of a problem before starting a product project is so important, but also how you can run problem framing workshops yourselves, hopefully. So, as I said, I'm Harry Ford. I'm the head of product strategy at a digital agency in Guildford. We're also based a lot in London, called Cluj. I've worked with a range of startups through the years. I was originally a designer, freelance designer, and I've moved through the ranks, as they say, to now being more of a consultant, like a digital innovation consultant. I've worked with a range of startups and companies. So I've worked with the likes of Zurich, the insurance company. I help them with their innovation foundry, so I work alongside them, sort of installing design sprints and design thinking and helping their sort of innovation culture, as per se. I work with Bupa, WWF, and a lot of these people, but it's mainly on sort of strategy and innovation. I got married last year to a lovely Romanian lady called Rebecca. So we live in the UK, but we do actually have a flat here in Cluj. So we bought that last year. We love coming back here all the time because we've got friends here, and it makes my wife very happy. And to be honest, I think she wants me to move here. So she's getting her way slowly. But I'm hoping to make more links and more friends and by doing these sort of talks with you guys tonight. Right, so to give you a little more background about what I do at work, it is one of the main things I do is I run and facilitate design sprints, mainly for a lot of different businesses, really. So we've found that not only is it sort of the best way of coming up with a designed MVP solution, it also allows us to quickly validate a said solution with their customers. It lets us kickstart a project, really, and is a great way to start a working relationship with a client and allow us to come up with the best way to explain it, I always think, is the best sort of collaborative brief or in an engaging way. There are many ways to run design sprints. I'm not going to be talking about design sprints all night, don't you worry. I'm just pulling this in as a reason why I'm talking about design sprints now. You can run design sprints from 5 to 3 days. The way we set up ours really is to get the most sort of collaborative design value from the first 2 days. At the start of any solution process, I'm sure a lot of you know, you can spend too much time deliberating sort of the problems you actually need to solve. So I recently ran a design sprint for a startup. I think it was late last year. It was a startup idea, and it kind of failed. The idea was to create an app for people to store and share sort of personal information and documents, but with their lawyer and their nearest and dearest, in the eventuality that they died, which is a bit morbid. It was a really good idea. I thought, this is a bloody good idea. I love this. But it's a little bit depressing, yeah, I know. But once we started coming up with solutions, the scope sort of broadened, as it does. It became unwieldy. Not only did you now upload like documents, as I said, sort of like passport, will, driving license, you also could now, they wanted sort of to be able to collaborate with a lawyer or someone within the app. And you could also then upload photography of your children that you wanted to save. So it became from this simple idea to sort of this overwhelming large idea. The idea quickly became far too big, really, because of what the client wanted or thought was really fundamental to the idea being a success. So once we'd tested our prototypes that we created, these are actually some of the prototypes I created for the client, we quickly realized with the users that they didn't need this solution. The solution had become far too complicated, and they didn't understand it. Simple as that. It wasn't solving really a user problem for them, or it wasn't solving anything in a way that they could understand. In order to stop this happening at Cluj, we introduced problem framing. So before every design sprint now, or project, so it doesn't even have to lead into a design sprint, any sort of creative project, it is now our first crucial step in discovering why a project should exist. So it's all way too easy to start designing solutions without first sort of clearly identifying what the actual problems are. So by taking a step back to first understand the needs of the business and customer, it will help identify what the right problems are to solve and take forward to solution design. These are uncomfortable, these things. As much as we don't sort of want to admit it within businesses and companies, many organizations prioritize projects sort of based on probably the whims of a few, probably a project manager and people like this. So I'm just going to have a drink. So, yeah, so you can, based on maybe the whims of a few, as I say, like the project managers, the CEO, or you base it on sort of incomplete, biased insights, really. So problem framing shines a light really on sort of strategic road mapping and goal setting. So tools like design sprints are perfect for solution design and validation, but they can't tell us if what we're working on, if we're working on really the right problems. So framing provides problem validation to ensure our products and our services that we create are attacking a sort of viable space, a viable market space. So simply put here, well, I put it together, adding product framing here in front of our design sprint process has kind of really helped us going into sprints and working on a solution that isn't actually focused on, a user problem. So, just for a moment, let's imagine we're designing sort of products to help us solve some difficult problems, but ones that don't actually exist. So I found this product designer, really cool guy, called Matt Benedito in America, that's been doing just this. So he's created a collection of sort of like unnecessary product inventions that no one really is asking for, but he's taken it upon himself to sort of bring these products to life anyway. These are obviously like silly examples, but I felt like they're just a really cool way of sort of illustrating my point. So I'll show you these. So first off, we have Croc gloves, as if Crocs on your feet weren't bad enough. We have avocado on a stick. So for the vegetarians, I'm guessing, I'm not sure. So we have for the runners, we have some very fashionable sweat gutters done by Matt himself. We have the very handy finger extender, I'm guessing, where you can't reach your top of your iPad or your remote control or something. We have a portable cereal bowl. This is when I'm guessing you don't have time for breakfast at home, you're on a bus or something. Last but not least, Lego socks, which actually everybody always likes, which is kind of annoying. So, as someone who's worked in startups, it pains me to see that so many businesses really fail each year, mainly because they've created a product which they think is great. They think it's brilliant. Everybody does. They think your own idea is brilliant. But in reality, it has little sort of to no market need. Bad design is like all around us. We design and we create things for people to use everywhere. And people naturally kind of circumnavigate really bad design to achieve really the path of least resistance. They might do this by purely not using the product that you created them because it doesn't fit maybe into their life or doesn't solve a problem for them or just an easier route for them maybe altogether for them to take. So as you can see, naturally as humans, we tend to pick a path of least resistance. So people will instinctively sort of avoid kind of designed barriers and take an easier way around. So I was actually searching for these around the internet when I created this, and I ended up getting a little bit hooked because there were so many cool ones. So I thought I'd show you a couple as they seem to appear everywhere as soon as I started searching for them. Like, really necessary. So as you can see, people will not take sort of the designed route if there is an easier way for them to get to their destination. They could create their own path, especially when they have an urgent need. I even found them when I was playing this, and I even found one in Red Dead Redemption. So they're even in computer games. So what does this actually show us? It shows us that paths should be actually laid where people walk, instead of walking where paths are laid. So never start with a solution, always start with the problem and who you're solving it for. So I'm going to show you a little fun video now. Bear with me, I'm going to try and get it. It should be all geared up to make sound.
Making juice is easy. Start by taking a stroll down to the neighborhood farmer's market. Buy about $50 worth of organic fruits and vegetables. Don't forget to bring a tote bag.
Do you sell tote bags?
No, we'll just carry it. Did you forget your tote?
Wash your fruits and vegetables. Cut them, chop them, wash them again, peel them.
I think this peeler's broken.
Dig your juicer out from the back of your cupboard, realize there's still a part missing, find it. Figure out how to put it all together, then juice. And enjoy. Oh, but did you think you were done? Because you're not. Now you've made a big old mess that you have to clean up, the machine, the countertop, pretty much your whole kitchen.
Can't get those beets out of anything.
All right, so making juice isn't easy at all. It's actually a huge pain. But what if it didn't have to be?
What is this?
It's a juicero.
I'm sorry, I don't know what that word means.
It's
What's
a new word.
juicero? Okay, define it for me.
Juicero, the best juice ever. What comes out of the juicero is so fresh that it shouldn't even be called juice. It should just be called, I don't know, squashed produce, because that's what it is. Our founder, Doug, is straight up made of juice.
Literally, there's juice in my veins.
Doug and the Juicero team have taken care of everything. Not just the washing, the peeling, and the chopping, but the growing, the harvesting, the washing, the refrigerated transport, the inspecting. Did we mention the washing? The packaging. And finally, delivering to your house. And we haven't even gotten to the most genius part yet. There's nothing to clean. No mess whatsoever. It's so easy that it makes the old way of juicing seem, well, old.
Why did I do all that other stuff?
Who cares? That's our past life. This is our new life.
Juicero. The easiest, freshest, most delicious way to get juice.
Brill. So, Juicero raised nearly $120 million from investors before they even shipped one single unit. I mean, that's a fun piece of marketing, right? I showed this to my wife, and she was like, "Yeah, I want one." So, calm down. It's like, so the team who created Juicero, they spent over 2 years building an incredibly complex product and an ecosystem to support it, really. Aside from their sort of flagship juice press, which you can see here, they built relationships with farmers. They had food processing facilities, as you saw in the video. Their complex, custom-created packaging, beautifully designed web and mobile app. They even had a subscription delivery service as well to boot. But they did all this really they did all of that work without actually the basic proof that the business made sense to its consumers. So once the product was out, people started making videos. They kind of started going a little bit viral on YouTube, including this one from Bloomberg. So, Juicero, they quickly became exposed. Really, they exposed how easy it was to just simply cut the top of the Juicero, the bottom of the Juicero packet, and just squeeze it out with your bare hands. Anybody could do it. There's videos of kids doing it on YouTube, and it was really funny. So deeming what was that originally a $500 Wi-Fi connected juice press sort of completely unnecessary, really. Pretty much overnight, Juicero became this like poster child of Silicon Valley excess. So they designed a solution first without fully understanding what the right problem really was to solve. By identifying the correct problem and who it affects allows us to have the best sort of starting point to move on to solution design. So recently, Forbes and Statista have determined that around 42% of all startups fail because they've created a product that actually has no market need. So that means around 109,000 businesses potentially closed because they created something that people didn't actually want. This is not just crazy, it's avoidable. Like, this is the problem I'm kind of trying to solve with doing talks like this one and running problem framing with my clients. So where do we actually start on this? So we start by validating whether a real problem exists, and then we define it. So people only buy a solution to a problem they actually have. And a problem must be validated with a market, because supply can't actually exist without a market need or a demand. So if you're a business, then you're well aware that a business can't exist, I guess, really, without a customer and enough people out there with the same need. The life of a startup can be sort of divided into before and after a product market fit. The last thing you want to do is begin investing and growing your business, which doesn't fill a real market need. You'll always be forever trying to convince rather than engage your market. And you'll be in that sort of uphill, constant struggle, which I've been. I've been at startups in London and stuff, and it's just, from day one, I thought, oh, shit. Like, we've got the wrong idea here. Like, we're trying to battle that constant uphill struggle of, like, trying to get users in. Nobody really understands it. So it's time to create something that people actually want. So as humans, we love problem solving. We're wired for it, really. Unfortunately, unless we know everything there is to know about the problem, who we're solving it for, and why the problem is, or maybe isn't, important to them, the solutions that we come up with probably create little to no value. Give me 1 second, I'm just going to have another water. It's very dry, it's talking up here. God, is everybody else hot? I'm not really hot, I'm joking. So this is where problem framing comes in. To do this, we need a cross-functional team. So a cross-functional skilled team. This is very important. Just like a design sprint, we need the right people in the room to enable us to get the information and the answers in order for us to frame a correct problem. Oh, cheers, dude. I love you. Thank you. I found that a great way to actually inspire people when inviting them to a problem framing session is to talk around problems to be solved. Team members hear this, and it's more of an innovation to sort of innovate. So when we lead, really, by talking around solutions or about solutions, team members, and I see it all the time, team members hear instructions, which to lots of people is kind of quite scary, and scary dependent on the size of the task as well. So people might be afraid to maybe get involved or speak up. So problems, I guess, are just generally easier to talk about. So what does a problem framing workshop look like? So a problem framing workshop, depending on the size of the problem and the scale of the business and stuff we're working with, it'll take you from 6 hours to a day. A day is best. You might as well spend enough time to really frame this properly. It runs through like this. So we start with, we talk around the business problems. We then contextualize the problem. We then decide who we're actually solving this problem for, as in who is our user or users. Then we decide who will be in the team taking our project forward. Last but not least, we'll actually be defining our problem statement as a team. This is sort of an overview, and I'm actually going to quickly go through all of these bits now, just to give you a sort of fuller view of this whole process. So to enable us to come up and frame our problem as a team, we first need to contextualize the problem. So it can be very easy, as we all know, to jump straight into sort of creating solutions for problems. And people will start doing it in a workshop. They'll be like, oh, I know, shh, calm, take your time. However, without having a context as to why a problem actually exists, it could mean creating the wrong solution to solve the problem. So first, we get everybody in the team, really, to individually answer what our business problems are by using Post-its and Sharpies. I'm sure we all do this in our design thinking workshops. Once we have our problems, we get everybody to present them into the room while placing them on our cynefin. So everybody always asks me, what is a cynefin? So cynefin is the Welsh word for habitat. Don't ask me why the design thinking people decided to use this word. I have no idea. It's just the home for your problem, I'm guessing they used it for. The cynefin helps us actually identify the problems that are worth solving. And shines, I bet there's a lot of questions coming in now saying, why is it called cynefin? It shines light on where problems that will cause us to waste time or valuable time or effort or money, so we can put problems into the right areas and which ones to action, as shown here. So as you can see, there are sort of 5 domains of our cynefin framework. So we'll have a walk through each of these now. First, we take the obvious, the bottom right here. This is the domain of best practice. So in obvious context, your options are clear and should be apparent to everyone involved. There are often explicit steps, really, in place that dictate the next stage of a process with an obvious problem. Complicated. This is the domain of experts. So complicated problems might have several solutions to them. Here, there is a real clear relationship between cause and effect. But it may not be visible to everybody because the problem is, in itself, complicated. For example, you might see several symptoms of a problem, but not know how to fix it. Complex, the domain of emergence. Complex problems are often unpredictable. It might be possible to identify one correct solution or spot a cause and effect relationship in these complex situations or problems. So chaotic is the domain of rapid response. So this could be a problem, sort of like server downtime. Our servers keep going downtime. Not really. These are sort of things that chaotic, that you can fix really quickly. So we can't fix climate change, definitely not. Not quickly. So these ones are sort of more the rapid response. So you can put a fix to them, and once you do, it may not be the best solution for that fix, but it's in place, and later on you can come and fix it properly and come up with the right solution. And last but not least, this is where climate change is. So this is disorder. So I like to call this actually the Brexit domain. So if you don't know where you are, you're in disorder. So your priority is to move this into a known domain. Brexit. Anyway, as a facilitator, this is kind of your chance to get your team leaders, who will often work alone, in a lot of cases, to share power. We get them to look to the wisdom of the group to take their counsel. The best and most flexible kind of leaders that I've ever worked with will embrace their teams. They'll embrace their teams, but they'll embrace their team's decisions and their votes as well. And they'll take these processes on. This is why we work in a sort of that multi-skilled, collaborative group during these workshops. Once all your problems are up and organized, you will get everyone to silently vote on these problems as a group. They vote on them from what they feel are the most sort of clear and yield the biggest impact. Then we reorganize them in the most voted to least voted in each section. The problems we actually take forward are situated within our complicated and complex sections. Next steps. Next steps are to contextualize our problem. So we'll be doing this as a group, really, by defining what we've tried in the past. So the barriers and the challenges that we've faced. then we look at kind of success factors we've had in the past as well. So what we maybe were successful at doing in the past. A lot of groups don't realize that you probably tried to tackle similar problems, or maybe you've actually tried to tackle this exact one. So by doing this, it brings a real sort of transparency of what we've tried before to the group. By noting all these down as a group, then voting on them, we quickly sort of rise these main challenges we've faced in the past, but also things that could just help us move forward quicker. So I realized when I was making this deck and I was looking through all the photos during the workshops that we create, that I never smile and I just pull stupid faces. So I've put a few of these through just to show my point, just for a bit of fun. So justifying the business need. So now it's time to align our team towards the same direction, to make the product owner's vision tangible to our team. The team will now answer the big question. So what do we actually want to achieve? Here, we also think about what could derail us and how we can achieve our goals that we've set. Again, talking about something that might have derailed the project or a similar project in the past will actually help us sort of circumnavigate similar circumstances with our current project we're working on. We now spend time to empathize and understand our user, our customer. So the person affected by our assumed problem. I told you, stupid face. We'll be looking at what we think their goals, their motivations, and their frustrations are. By doing this as a group and having the facilitator sort of note them down, it allows us to challenge all of what we write up and say. So I will talk about this again in a minute, but after the problem framing, we'll need to validate everything that we actually sort of come up with here. So to make sure that we've created, or what we've actually created here is based around the user, that's based around the user, is no longer just assumed, but also validated by testing with actual users. So step number 4, the right people for the job. This is one that loads of people miss, and it's really important, I think. So during problem framing, we spend some time deciding who are the right users that we're actually taking forward into this project. Sometimes probably the same sort of group of people that you'll go forward with in companies and stuff, and it's not always the right group of people to take into the actual solution design. If you move maybe forward into a design sprint, this is a really important step for you, I think. This is kind of where you decide who are the people of this high interest and high power who need to be in the project. Design sprints are often filled with designers and prototyping. I see this all the time. That's what most people assume they need to get into the best results on a prototype after like 5 days, after this week of work. There's this idea, really, that I keep seeing, and it's coming up more and more, that you simply gather a bunch of designers in a room and they'll eventually come up with something good. Unfortunately, this is quite far from the truth. And a successful design sprint, or a project in general, needs a real variety of positions in a room in order to produce and get the best results. This includes product managers, some form of leader, maybe, marketers, technology managers, consumer voices, and to be honest, anyone who really understands the problem that you're trying to solve. The most important person by far is the decision maker, the person who has the power to completely throw out everything you've actually worked for so hard for over a 5-day sprint. So you need to get the decision maker, or makers, maybe there's 2 of them in the room. If you will be running a design sprint after a problem framing, this is your opportunity to organize your sprint team. So a sprint team is no larger ever than 7. If you have more, you always go, and being a facilitator myself, I see this far too often. Clients, I'm like, it's only 7, and I've got 15 people that turn up, and I'm like, what? So if you go from running a design sprint to kind of like an unruly mob, so as a facilitator, you will always have your hands full, keeping people really mainly jumping directly into solution mode. And that dynamic kind of worsens the more people you have in the room. Finally, as a team, we will be defining our problem statement. So we will list who is having the problem, what is the problem about, when does it occur, and is it worth solving, and why care about it. So in simpler terms, they are the 4 W's, the who, what, where, and why. A good problem statement is human-centered and it's user-focused. So based on insights you've actually gathered during our empathize phase, our user phase, it focuses on users and their needs, not on a sort of product specifications and business outcomes. So how do we create a meaningful problem statement? Well, we focus on the user. The user and their needs should be front and center, really, of your problem statement. Avoid statements that start with, we need to, or the product should. Instead, concentrating on the user's perspective, more like young working professionals need, ... Keep it broad. So a good problem statement leaves room for the innovation and that creative freedom that you want when doing solution design. It's important to keep it broad enough to invite a range of different ideas in the design solution phase. Avoid any references really to specific solutions or technical requirements within the actual problem framing, problem statement rather. Make it manageable though. So at the same time, your problem statement should guide you and provide direction. If it's too broad in terms of a user's needs and goals, you'll struggle to sort of hone this down into a suitable solution. So don't try and address sort of too many users' needs in one problem statement. So you have to prioritize and frame your problem accordingly. So with all of your findings from the user place, let me just have another drink. My mouth gets very dry. You ask yourself the 4 W's, the who, the what, the when, and the why. So who, in other words, who is your target user? Who will be the focus of your problem statement? What is the problem? Based on the observations you made during your empathizing phase, your user phase, what are the problems and the pain points that frequently come up, or came up? What task, cheers dude, what task is the user trying to accomplish, and what's standing really in their way? When does the problem present itself? So in what space, situation or context is the user when they actually face this problem? So are there any other people involved maybe? Why does it matter? Why? Why is it important that this problem is to be solved? What value would a solution bring to the user? And also it's great just to look at the value it would bring to your business as well, right here. If you really simplify this down, this really works with any idea. I did it recently with a client, Farnborough Air Show in England, big air show, and they just wanted to create their app, so we're doing their app for them. And then we just had this broad idea. We had so many users and so many things, and I'm like, I was like, just focus on your main user, the main problem they face, and then you're not creating an app with so many different things in it that people are just confused at, because every year they're going, this doesn't work, I didn't really need this. So if you're just simplifying it down, it's as simple as that. So approaching your observations with these sort of 4 problems in mind will help you identify patterns within your user research. In identifying the most prevalent issues, you'll be that one step closer to formulating a really meaningful problem statement. That's what we want. One thing I always hear, my UX guy at work would kill me, but one thing I always hear UXers say is, don't make, well, they say this about users rather, is don't make assumptions. So it's like the #1 thing in Google when I searched getting to know your users better. Don't make assumptions. So I think this, personally, is a real process problem. So as sometimes we have to make assumptions, like to quickly move forward in projects at the beginning, we need to make assumptions to begin with. I'm not saying they're the right ones, but we need to do this. Unless you can get your users really into the room on the day of a problem framing session, you have to make some assumptions. After the problem framing session is finished, it's then time to validate who our assumed user is, as well as then their assumed goals, their motivations, and their frustrations. It's best to do user research at all stages of a design process, not only in usability testing during the project to make sure the actual design is on track, which I always see in a lot of companies. It's just one place. It's before, it's after, it's all the time. This always eliminates then your risk of not having a market fit problem by validating this with your set of users. So, why problem framing? Running through how problem framing can help you, it stops the not knowing really if your product will have a market fit sooner. You can get the correct stakeholders in the room early doors in a project. It stops you kind of repeating, I guess, the same mistakes that you've made in the past. It helps you evaluate ideas sooner, and it will give you and your team this confidence with this problem statement on what you're trying to achieve. So as you move through a project process, you'll certainly refer back to this problem statement all the time to make sure you're moving in the right direction. So a well thought out problem statement will keep you on track. So help you maybe communicate better with, or communicate your objectives better with your key stakeholders, and ultimately lead you to that all-important user solution that we're after. Now we can mainly focus on our main problem and who we're solving it for. There's no more guessing. We get started with a user and a market-validated problem. So a problem well-framed really is a problem half-solved. Einstein supposedly said, I'm sure he didn't, someone's going to Google it in a minute and go, no, he didn't. This is what he said. If I had 1 hour to solve a problem, I would spend 55 minutes diagnosing the problem and 5 minutes solving the problem. Laying out the groundwork to solving a problem cannot be really underestimated, in my opinion. Too often we see projects that are focused on a wrong question or have embarked on a project with an incomplete or sort of partial understanding of the problem that's actually to be solved. This inevitably leads to costly errors and time spent delivering an outcome which is actually not desired at all. So only once the problem statement is precise, is comprehensive, and agreed by your team, should we allow teams to begin thinking creatively about solutions. So I thank you all for listening to me today. Hope it was all awesome and you enjoyed it. I would like to actually set a challenge. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. You were very kind. I'd like to set a quick challenge, though. I would love all of you to maybe after this talk, to look at sort of your products or your business problems that you have and start that innovation process right there. As in, challenge yourself, or maybe it's your boss, to run a problem framing workshop and hopefully you'll quickly see the benefits of actually running one right at the beginning. So again, thank you all for listening, and I hope you enjoyed, and I look forward to answering some of your questions for you.